Are you guys planning to adapt the entirety of the Dark Horse Book 4 comics and by proxy sticking to the canon, or just adapt comic books while making new stories that alter the canon completely?
Book 4 is an adaptation of the Dark Horse comics, but it's not just a dub of them. Our main intention is to make the stories feel more connected and cohesive like how the original show is. So there's going to be new stories here and there, just like episode 5.
What is your approach to playing Katara? Because you sound a lot like Mae Whitman.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm very lucky that I have a textured voice like Mae Whitman, but the best I could do, I try to go down into my register, and I noticed that she has kind of rounded sounds. So, well, first what I do is I listen to the opening monologue, earth, water, air, and like that until I get the voice down. But mostly it's making my sounds more rounded. I try to round the middle of my mouth, if that makes sense, and go into my chest register. So that's. I also try to I talk really fast, and she talks a little bit slower. So I try to do that.
It's so interesting and amazing to see just how voice actors and directors can pick up on those little things, like knowing to round your mouth to get that voice, or paying attention to how quick the character speaks. So, like, for you, slowing it down.
Oh yeah. So, I had a teacher once when I was doing acting classes. He was like, "You're very talented, but you need to learn to slow the F down." I have kept that with me for all these years.
Very pressing. Wagtail IP7HZ on YouTube asks, why do you take so long to make videos and episodes? It's really exciting to watch.
One of two reasons. First reason, biggest reason, is that this isn't our full-time job. We all got different things going on, other part-time jobs, other things that, pay us money so that we can actually live. That's the one thing. So a lot of us have to do this in our free time. We have to volunteer or just put this into whatever time we have available after other things. The second reason is that production tends to be fairly linear. It starts off from the art, if we need to add original art, and then it goes to normally the voice recording, then to the sound mixing, the video editors and music, and then to the final mix before it gets posted. These tend to happen one after the other. So if one of them takes a little longer, usually we have to wait until they're done before we can proceed to the next step. Now, good news is that usually we start art pretty soon once we finish it. So we actually already have the art for the next episode ready, so it should not take nearly as long for the next episode as it did for this last one. Also is that if you want to decrease the wait time, you could, of course, donate on Patreon and, otherwise support this project so that we can spend more time working on it and get through things faster. That is always an option. The power is in your hands.
The power is in the hands of the people.
From Jack Henry on YouTube. As a new story maker hobby, how do you guys find ideas and inspiration for a good story?
I think everybody has a different process. For me personally, I'm one of those people where I'm constantly bombarded by ideas to the point where it's like mental illness. I swear to God, I can't function sometimes. I'm constantly bombarded by creative ideas. Sometimes I write them down just to get them out of my head. For me, it's more like I need the discipline and guidance to be productive with those inspirations. But there's people that are the opposite. There are several people on the project who are very good at the discipline and follow through and guiding that energy, but who often, experience writer's block or struggle to figure out exactly what they want to write. The advice I've given to my friends when they're in that situation, just as they help me with getting my work organized, the advice I give is if you're finding yourself stuck and you can't write or you can't make something work, just open up a new document and write whatever stupid, indulgent shit you want to write. Don't worry about if it's well written. Don't worry about grammar or spelling. Write whatever is fun. Right? If you want to write two characters that have no business being shipped and you want to write them being shipped, or you want to write them fighting because you just think that would be cool, or you want to write some dumbass story about two characters picking out curtain rods, even if curtain rods don't exist in their universe, write it. Write whatever stupid, indulgent thing will make you happy to write without any concern about quality. Because the moment you do that, you'll remember you like writing again. And that is the headspace you want to be in. Because I find that usually when people are feeling like they can't come up with ideas or they're struggling to, it's because you've become so focused on trying to make it good or trying to make it work that you are struggling to experience that fun, whimsical, imaginative, almost childlike state that makes creativity really flow. So if you're finding yourself like, I can't think of anything or I'm stuck, write whatever dumb bullshit makes your heart happy. Whatever you find funny, whatever you find sexy, whatever you want to do. If you want to have Zuko meet SpongeBob, do it. It doesn't matter. Because the moment you start having fun, I guarantee you ideas are just going to start flowing into you.
When assigned to create a piece for the project, how do you prepare and what inspires you?
The biggest thing I do to prepare is, first, of course, I read through the scene. I take note of what characters appear and what other emotional beats or story beats are hit to try and see what leitmotifs and other themes I can draw on and incorporate in the track. If I'm ever at a loss, I could always ask Lucía to find comparable moments in the show whose tracks I could draw from for inspiration as well.
Yeah, she's great at stuff like that.
Yeah, she's got an encyclopedia of knowledge about Avatar, and I am grateful.
Cloudy Wani 664, they asked on YouTube, have you ever written any fan fiction or made fan art outside of book 4 itself?
Oh, Cloudy Wani is so cool. I always see their comments. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I be almost religiously like checking the comments on YouTube. I'm always like going and secretly liking a bunch of them, even if I don't reply. I'm always like
no, I love that. It's such a good feeling.
Right? Oh, I adore the comments. Thank you guys for all of your comments. And Cloudy Wani especially, they always have such cool and insightful things to comment. So to answer their question, to be honest, I hadn't really until I got involved with the Book 4 Air Restoration Project. Because one, I was on the writing team, but in addition, I was sort of inundated with all of these amazing creative people in our production server and just people who love Avatar. It kind of boosted Avatar in my algorithm on various social media platforms. And so I've been seeing beautiful fan fiction, beautiful fan art, like all of these awesome creative works and all of these amazing Avatar-centric creative ideas that once I became a part of Book 4, I did sort of start doing some, I don't want to call them fan art, but I am a fan, and so I guess they are fan works.
Fan works. Okay. Elaborate.
Honestly, a lot of them are like silly headcanons that me and Lucía come up with, and then like I make like a little silly script for them or something that doesn't amount to anything. But I have written a Avatar Aang rap. It's because I saw a meme that had him with like the headphones that's like steaming.
I love that.
And I was like, bet. So I wrote an Avatar Aang rap. I don't think it'll ever see the light of day.
I don't know. I think you did show it to me a while ago, and I may or may not rapped it for you. So maybe we should drop the tape. Start selling the
I will say there is another Avatar themed rap that I'm hoping will make it onto your Book 4 Air Restoration Project Horizons that deals with our very own world's greatest earthbender.
Yes.
So maybe that one will come on your radar. Fingers crossed. I am rather proud of it.
Oh, I'm so excited. Is there a certain comic or one-off you've enjoyed editing the most for the project so far?
I would have to say, right off the bat, that episode 2, the hawk and the turtle crab, I was in charge of some of the first scenes with Toph and Sokka just falling out of the sky. Those were the most creative moments that I could experiment with during the majority of the project. I felt like I really came into my own when I figured out that I could manipulate the panels to have more motion than just moving a single element and just the text. It really felt like I was in charge of that scene, and that made me feel really good.
So my favorite part is when we're doing the action scenes. My best one that I liked the most was when it was like Katara's scene where she was protecting this, I forgot her name, but she was from the Fire Nation or the Earth Nation. It was a confusing storyline because it was it's about they're trying to put everyone back to their places, but then some of them can't because they already established a home.
Right.
And my scene was when someone was going to throw a rock at that girl, but then Katara intervened and like waterbend the boulder in half, which I love that part, and it was my favorite part to do. It took a long time to do it, but it was worth it because it looks really nice, you know?
This is from Tree Tunnel Productions 8903 on YouTube. What platform do you guys use to find voice actors? How do you prefer to direct them? Over video calls? What advice do you have for aspiring directors who want to work with voice actors?
So what we use to find voice actors, we don't actually use platforms like Casting Call Club or anything. We actually have a talent pool that we have acquired over time with a lot of incredible voice actors. And so what we do is that we send auditions out to them. And if anyone wants to apply for that talent pool, it is usually open. You just have to send in your demo reel and your contact info. And if it gets decided that, yeah, this is a solid reel, we want to add you to the talent pool, your email address gets added to the roster. And whenever we have auditions, it gets sent out.
If we do need more auditions, I would look up our social medias if for any updates. We'll probably post the document there.
How do we prefer to direct them? It depends on what the actor's comfortable with. A lot of times we'll just jump in a Discord call and do it. If the actor is has like a program already set up like Zoom or Source Connect where we can direct in real time, we can accommodate that too. I've done that for a few actors. But even if you don't have any of that, I'm happy to accommodate over Discord where we just get in a call and I will stream the script or the comic panels and direct as they act. It's really fun because you get to in real time kind of act together and figure out the voice and how you want it to sound, and there's a lot of great energy. And the hardest part about directing is knowing that nobody is the same. And how to get a good performance out of one person is not necessarily how you get a good performance out of another person. So a lot of directing is just understanding people. Who are the people who just need help getting out of their head and into their body so they can just act without holding back? Who are the people who just need technical explanations or context, or who need you to read them in? And figuring out all these different techniques and how different people work as actors and creatives is really the mark of a great director. A director's greatest skill is just understanding all of the subtext in a script so you know how everything should be delivered, and then understanding all the subtext about a person so you know how to talk to them and direct them, if that makes sense.
Uncle Iroh means so much to so many people, so I bet it must be a lot of pressure and a privilege really for you to be playing such a beloved character. So what is it like for you to voice everyone's favorite character, Uncle Iroh, and how do you even see him as a mentor to yourself?
I will say that the pressure is on, but the privilege, it is nothing short of an honor. I have thankfully carried it very admirably, if the audience is any indication, and that makes me very, very proud. Of the characters I have played in my decade or so of voice acting, Iroh is one of those characters I feel I have earned. I manned up, I buckled down, I earned this. All capital letters, all bolded, all underlined. Earned. And as for him being a mentor to myself, he's arguably one of the wisest characters I have ever met in fiction. I learned so much from him. I can barely describe how much I've learned from him. Uncle Iroh.
Oh, that was really, really good. How do you get that special cadence for Uncle Iroh's voice?
Well, it all starts with years of imitating cartoon characters when you're a kid. It's really kind of a acquired skill.
Kind of like when we all like did the fake bending in front of the TV, you were doing the fake voices. So that's pretty cool.
Exactly.
From at Creepy Living 8733, which of the Avatar comics is your favorite and least favorite, and why?
Well, that's kind of hard to say because I haven't had a chance to read every comic. So I'm not. I know.
Jail
I'm so
time.
Sorry. I mean, obviously, Suki alone, but that makes me biased.
But that's
really,
gotta be one of the best out there right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. It really, builds upon her character and, the backstory that made her into the woman she is today and made me a little teary-eyed. So I hope I can, in my performance when we get there, can make everyone else teary-eyed as well.
You're going to nail it.
I sure hope so.
You will.
As to, reading the comics, I'm kind of going along with the project. I'm learning the story as we go. Even if it does get modified, it's sort of like going in blind, but not completely. So I know some things, but then, I get the whole picture once the episode gets released. I kind of like read my own parts and then it gets put, all together.
Huntress1123 on YouTube. If you were given the chance to, outside of book 4, to make a completely original story for Avatar, would you take it? Which is in lines of what's going on. And they say something like Legend of Korra, but everything is in your overall control. Would you follow the already known characters, make a prequel following a past Avatar character, or make an entirely new character to follow?
Yes, I would. And I've had a couple different ideas on this. Let's go with the more interesting one first, I suppose. Yes, I have had an idea for a completely original concept that doesn't involve anything before. It would have taken place in like the distant Avatar past, like somewhere in that like gray area, like before Yang Channel that we know literally nothing about. That idea was something along the lines of, I don't know if you've ever seen these type of shows and like some anime where it's like there's not really a central plot, but it's like, hey, a bunch of these events are just kind of happening independently of each other, but they all feature like the one single main character, like tie them all together, kind of like an anthology, I guess, is what I'm saying. An anthology series where my idea was you follow this one person who is questioning why only the Avatar can bend more than one element, and so they're on a quest to see, is it possible for a regular bender to bend even just a second one, not even try to be the Avatar? It's like a whole journey about that and stuff. I floated around with the idea that maybe every episode your protagonist is completely like different and redesigned, not because they are a different person, but because it's told from the perspective of whatever like story and traveler met them, and they're like they all remember that person. They're like, oh yeah, it was this cool woman with like nunchucks on her belt. Oh no, it was this like ripping young guy who had like, wolf pelts on his arms and stuff.
Yeah, kind of how like people write history and view it a different way than it actually happened.
It's like you're reading a bunch of different historical texts about this like one guy, like, oh, all the different stories we have of King Gilgamesh and everything. Yeah.
No, that's so cool, especially exploring the idea of multiple, like bending even one extra element. I've seen so many fanfics and like webtoon comics of a certain character or bender unlocking like a second element and how that affects the Avatar. So even then, like just from a historical point of view and olden days of Avatar, that would be super cool to see or read.
There would be like no real stakes. It's mostly just exploring a version of the Avatar world that we've never seen before and there's no precedent for, come up with all the different like creative animals, the different types of like ways people lived. I think I remember the protagonists, like the first episode would have started with the protagonist living in a Fire Nation village that they only survive because they share the land with those Komodo rhinos, and so they're kind of like a warrior clique because their only source of food is like an apex predator, so they gotta be on the top of their game.
From Fire Rose 4495 on YouTube asks, are you planning on dubbing the Legend of Korra comics?
As for the Legend of Korra comics, there are no plans. The scope of book 4 is just too big, and it just isn't in the cards because of cost of producing the episodes. But who knows? Maybe some other group can adapt the comics in the future.
What is it like being the head of audio and also voicing a character?
It's very simple because Hakoda doesn't really exist yet. I don't think we're going to get to actual serious Hakoda content for another couple of years.
Yeah, until North and South.
Yeah, and like being head of audio itself is also not too terribly complicated. I mostly just make sure that everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing. I don't actually handle a whole lot of the audio directly myself because we have a team of amazing people doing placement and mixing and all that stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely unique because in my head, I imagine head of audio, you were going over every little thing. You were going in, editing everything basically yourself. So I didn't really know what that entailed.
I can direct traffic. I cannot be the person that goes and does it if we can't get anybody else to do it. I don't have time to do that. I can't do that. And everyone was like, cool, that works. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm more or less a crossing guard and a source of expertise when needed.
So you get to play the big bad.
Yeah,
what's that like?
That.
Is it fun? Is it challenging?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. In the words of Plankton, being evil is too much fun.
That is so good. Oh my gosh.
I think my Mr. Krabs is better. Arr, I like money.
That is so spot on.
It's been implied multiple times, I feel like, that he didn't have the best relationship with his father, Azula. I think maybe some of that was projected onto Zuko.
Yeah, especially with the sibling dynamic with Iroh being the favorite.
Yeah, and I believe there's a project in the works, kind of delves into that.
Do you have any advice for actors seeking to specialize in voicing creatures?
Some of the advice I could give is definitely when it comes to it, if you're gonna go for it, you gotta practice. Like, be sure to listen to different animals and try to get the sounds down and everything. And even then, if you can't get it exactly right, I mean, that's fine. There's fantastical animals that aren't actually real in these projects that you could voice. You could do dragons, you could be a griffin, all these different things. But also, just don't be afraid of making odd noises. You need to test your vocal skills. You need to occasionally just do weird things. Make the weird noises because you never know. You can get something out of that.
What is it like to play the most bubbly former villain in the show? Do you relate to Ty Lee at all?
So I did grow up watching Avatar on TV, and when Ty Lee came on, I don't know, I did feel a connection to her, which is weird. I'm like, it's like nothing's ever going to happen out of this, but rather hyper and bubbly when the show came out, and then just seeing her.
The pinkest aura.
Yes, within next to May, who's very black, and then Azula, who is Azula.
Yeah.
So she stood out to me. I was like, oh, I like her, and I kind of feel like she sort of was something to aspire to be. I was young when the show came out, but I had that sort of impression that I would like to be this kind of character, bubbly and smiley and trying to get people to brighten their days and stuff like that.
Stefan Georgie on Patreon asks, hey guys, I had a couple of questions regarding the writing and changes of Azula. Azula is defined by the duality of aspects like brilliance and instability, cold ruthlessness and vulnerability. How did you approach writing her in a way which her core character traits remain intact, while allowing room for her deeper exploration of her psyche? How do you personally perceive Azula and her potential redemption? How do you see her primarily as a tragic character, a villain, or something in between?
Whew, what a question. Okay, so I think it's the question itself brings up a lot of interesting aspects about Azula. Her brilliance, her instability, her cold ruthlessness, her vulnerability. When I approach writing Azula, a lot of it is from a place of empathy, which might sound strange, well, she's a bad guy, but still, nobody sees themselves as the bad guy. So you want to really understand where they're coming from, even if they're wrong. If I place myself in Azula's shoes, I see somebody who at a very early age realized that Big Brother was protected by mom and sometimes uncle, but that she wasn't. Azula, being the youngest child, had no one to protect her. And so and she was aware that her mother did not have power. I mean, she even says it in the comics. She yells at her, you fear me. In the show, too, even you fear me. And I think that children pick up on things. And Azula recognized that she was on her own. And so she saw the way Ozai was always trying to curry favor with Azula. And I think realizing that she had an avenue to this because Ozai was interested in exploiting her firebending potential, she focused on pleasing him as a way of self-protection and to get affection, because children need love and affection. It's a thing we all need. And unfortunately, this only alienated her more from her mother and other people and made her someone who only ever got praised or any sort of positivity when she was doing the horrible bidding as a living weapon that Ozai wanted. And she also recognized that if she failed or did not please him, that she could easily be the new Zuko. This is why I think she shouts, "You can't treat me like this! You can't treat me like Zuko!" She clearly loves her brother. I know a lot of people don't believe this, but even the writers have said that she does, and that's why she helped him. that as much as she loves him, she still has to put her safety first. And this is why she'll try to help Zuko, but when he lies to her about the Avatar potentially still being alive, she's willing to throw him under the bus and make him the fall guy. As much as Azula has things she cares about, and I think she has doubts about her methods, because that's why her own conscience in the form of her mother is lecturing her at the end or in her breakdown, right? She does have remorse. She does have guilt. She does question her actions. She just knows there's no room for vulnerability. She has to put on a perfect persona of, I am loyal to the crown, I am perfect, I perform, I don't have any weaknesses. This is why on the beach, while she is able to empathize with everyone and get them to open up about their problems, when it comes time for her to talk about her own trauma, she dismisses it with a joke. She was right, of course, but it still hurt. But this is clearly not how she actually feels, seeing as her breakdown happened. This hurts her very deeply. Why does Azula lie so well that she can hide her emotions from Toph's lie detector? From a lifetime of having to push down her own feelings, insecurities, fears, and needs to put on this perfect persona. So when I am tackling Azula, a lot of what I'm thinking about at all times is, what is it that she wants other people to perceive versus what she's actually feeling? When she's saying, Zuko, you're pathetic and I don't care what you think. That's what she's saying. But what is she actually feeling? Is it, I don't understand, brother, why you don't love me even when I try to help you, even though you're a failure. Why don't you love me? But she can't say that. So instead it's, you're dumb and your opinion doesn't matter. When Azula, in Spirit Temple, for example, yells at May, you chose a boy who didn't even want you. What's she actually saying? My brother dumped you. I pulled you out of Omashu where you were bored. And I brought you on an adventure with me. I uplifted you, and you chose my brother who dumped you? You can hear the hurt behind the aggression. Azula attacks because that is what she knows. She calculates and she manipulates because it's the only way she knows how to get people to do what she wants. She doesn't understand how to develop a healthy relationship, but that doesn't mean she doesn't want one. So the way I balance it is just always keeping in mind the tension between the mask she puts on and the broken, hurt child inside. And it just comes out organically. And of course, I also have a fabulous director, Anthony Rodriguez. I direct a lot of the people, but I also need a director, and Anthony Rodriguez is our other director, and he is just wonderful. He knows how to bring a lot of nuanced and powerful acting out of somebody, so he is phenomenal. I think there's a big misunderstanding about what redemption means. I think a lot of people seem to think redemption means you become a good guy or you become one of the gang. But redemption, as by definition, only really means to either be saved from evil or to stop your evil ways. So in this way, Azula kind of already redeemed the moment they defeated her. She was out of power. But as far as an internal redemption, as no longer wanting to do evil, I think for that, Azula really needs to recognize reality. She is a very brainwashed and damaged individual. And now that she has been removed from Ozai's control, she's clearly, I say what you will about the comics, she's very dysregulated. She can't find her place. She doesn't know what she wants because her whole life has just been serving Ozai. She's been enmeshed with her abuser. Her own identity is in flux. So I think a lot of Azula's redemption is really like Zuko's, a story of self-discovery. Only while Zuko's was figuring out that he wasn't, a loser for being softer and that his empathy and his care were actually positive traits and he didn't need to be better than Azula to be worthwhile, Azula's is a lot more about realizing that everything she was taught to do and do perfectly were evil, not only for other people, but for herself. And how do you move past? How do you make amends? How do you even explain? How do you reach other people and form new relationships and bonds in a healthy way? And who are you and what do you believe? I think Zuko reaching out to form a better country, one that helps his broken little sister, is the best rejection of Ozai's belief, but that's just me.